off. That's nothing. It's no big deal. All the
Well,
work I
if
put
you
into that
are,
heated cabinet. I shut the switch off to it. Now there's no power for the coldest days of the year.
but being able to see your breath's a pretty cool effect now that we've gone live. So
Oh.
it's if you happen to catching us on the replay, just kind of BS in here before ads play and all that stuff. For oh, now hold on a second, I've got a little feedback, Darren. So I don't know if that's you. Nope, it's me. There we go. All right, so act like I know how to do this, but welcome everybody. Happy New Year! It's 2022. This is a little segment I've done now 4 years in a row. I call it Hangover Hangouts. Back in the day, it used to be Google Hangouts how we would do this interview setting, and I used to do it on my channel quite a bit. It was just an interview format, and so we kind of let that go by the wayside when Car Guy and Six Fan Show came around, but I try to do this once a year. Know your neighbors. And so today, the channel I want to bring to all of you guys, if you haven't met him yet, this gentleman to my, I don't remember which side this is because it's always backwards on StreamYard, but I'll let him introduce himself.
I'm Half-Ass Garage. Hi.
All right, or Darren as
Darren.
we call him when we're in these settings, but yeah, Darren.
Yeah, a lot
so
of people
I don't
know my name.
Well, and I apologize then now that I just blasted that out on the internet.
I don't care. I'm not hiding or anything. I just don't think I ever said it in any of my videos. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing like to get used to because I don't know which YouTube like self-help thing I was watching, but they're like, you want to personalize it. You want people to make a personal connection, so they recommend saying your name. So anyway.
Yeah, thanks for doxing me, Six Fan. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm trying to remember when I stumbled upon your channel to begin with, but I guess we'll just start with like, who is it that coaxed you into doing this whole YouTube thing, or what possessed you to, or how did you find yourself here on the interwebs posting video content?
Well, I was always out here tinkering on stuff in the shop, and I had some friends and stuff. They're like, "Oh man," because things have changed since I started the channel, but they were always like, "Oh man, you should film that and put it on YouTube." And I was like, "Yeah, no one wants to watch this stuff." You know what I mean? But they're like, "You should. Well, we're gonna watch it. It'd be like cool hanging out." So I'm like, "All right." So I did it, and like none of them watched it. It's funny, but then I was like, "This is pretty fun." Like I actually went to school I have a degree in animation, like film animation and videography, and well, you'd never tell by the way I film stuff, but editing and whatever. But so I was just like, this is fun. It's like relaxing at the end of the day to just kind of kick back and scrub through video a little bit and just, like that's my time to like sit down and rest sort of and not stress about things. So I was like, all right, and I kept it going, and that was basically it. I've got kind of a lot of pressures here at home, and that was just my kind of time to chill out.
Yeah, it's a great. The way I always say is like, if I'm going to be doing my hobbies anyway, I just will hit the record button kind of a thing. And when you talk about going to school for animation and videography stuff, like I want to talk about your intro because I always thought it was pretty cool, and this makes more sense now. You've got this idea of composition and how to do it. But what the way I look at it is, you probably didn't need too many difficult pieces of software or whatever to pull it off. Like I've always liked your intro, just to wipe in all the crap away to expose your name. I thought it was pretty ingenious. But tell us, like, what was the inspiration behind that?
So I was trying to think. I'm like, well, I'm watching some of these channels, and I, on one hand, I love the like epic explosions, and drifting through all this different stuff that a lot of people have. I think they're really cool. I like watching them, but I didn't really want, a minute and 30-second intro for every video, And I was working on the Rusty Ram. Forgot what I was doing on it. Anyways, I pulled it out, and there was a mountain of rust underneath it. So all the stuff that's on that, I just swept off the floor from the Rusty Ram and dumped it on a table. All of the stuff that's there was basically there. So the only thing that I did is I was like, hey, that looks kind of cool. So I was like, well, how would I put my logo on it, or whatever. I'll just make up some logo. And I was like, I got duct tape over here and a marker. So I just scribbled it out, slapped it on like this old welding table I had, and then dumped all the crap on it. And that was it. I just set up the camera. So it took a total of about 8 minutes to do that. And I was like, that's pretty simple. But, I kind of even thought, I'm like, I wonder if that's too much, because I've heard a lot of people say that they don't even want to watch an intro at all because it's wasted time. So I'm kind of on the fence about it. It's like, I don't know.
I was just having the same debate myself when I did my last upload, because it's a different style content than I normally do, and I'm like, what's the point of my intro really for this? Like, I should just get right to it. And that's what, after the intro, that's what it is. So I'm like, does the whole effect of the video, like, is it downgraded if I just skip the intro on that one? So
Yeah.
I threw it in anyway, just because it's like brand identity. But yeah, and the last kind of I don't know, like seminar thing I took, they were saying, like, if you're gonna do it, it shouldn't be longer than 5 seconds. And I think mine's like 7 or something, because they're like, because honestly, people just, like, the attention spans are just that short that it's like they're gonna skip ahead of anyway. So
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's kind of where I heard too. I don't know how long mine is. I think it's pretty short, but I don't know if it's under 5 seconds. But that's kind of what I heard too, is like, if you don't hook the audience within whatever amount, like a millisecond, they're gone, or something like that. You know what I mean? But to be honest, like, I don't have awesome projects. I just can't afford them, so if they're not interested in seeing exactly what I'm showing them, then they're not going to want to watch the video anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a nitrous supercharged whatever bunch of junk.
Yeah, you just have the rusty ram. So tell us about the rusty ram. It's actually, I remember watching this documentary on the History Channel. Of course, I'm a Ford guy, but I wore a Slant 6 shirt just because I knew we were going to be talking some Mopars today. But they were talking, the History Channel did a thing on just basically the history of trucks, right, in America. And I know Ford's been the #1 seller for a long time, but they showed a graph that, like, up until the 90s, Ford was #1, but, like, Chevy sold like half as much as Ford did. And then it showed Dodge sold about like 4% of what Chevy sold or something. I had not realized how big that discrepancy was between your generation. What I'm getting at is your generation of Dodge is actually a rare truck because there just weren't very many made. So tell us the history on the Rusty Ram, like where it came from, why it's special to you, and what it's about.
Special? It's special, all right. It's all right. So, all right. Here's this in a nutshell, right? So I used to have some Volkswagen Beetles. Okay, they were both 71 Super Beetles. One of them was a convertible, and the other one was a little, the sedan, whatever. So my sedan was an all original 33,000 mile car from California, original survivor, turnkey run drive. Perfect. The only thing it needed was some paint. So an old guy bought it. It bought it when he came here from Germany in 71 and had it like all this time. I was like the third owner from the guy that bought it from him and then sold it to me. But it was an auto stick. Do you know what the auto sticks are?
I do not.
All right. So it's like a precursor to the Porsche Tiptronic transmission, and the auto stick in a Volkswagen was an automatic stick shift. So it was a stick shift without a clutch. So it had a torque converter and a clutch in it, and the shifter was like split in the middle. It was like it had a little contact in it. When you would put your hand on this shifter, it would make contact and then throw out a servo, kick the clutch out, and then you didn't have a clutch pedal, and you just put it in. You could just come up to a light in first gear in your manual and just sit there and then just take off. It was weird, but there's a bunch of NLA parts for those things, and it's nightmare. So I was looking for a transmission to switch it out to a regular Beetle 4-speed. Got that from a car that it was this convertible, and the whole convertible was there, and it was all like 80% restored, but I didn't have time. So I sold the rest of the car to this couple, and this couple came out and they bought it. And I, was telling them, well, you should do a Subaru swap on this car and all whatever. So they buy it. I get a call like I don't know, a month later, right? So they buy this whole car from me. And they're like, and it's the lady, his wife. And she's like, oh, yeah, Huey, the guy that owned all this stuff, he suddenly died. He like went into the hospital with like some weird pain. They told him to go home. He stroked out and died on the floor right there. So he had all this stuff. She asked me to help her sell it, including the Beetle, and that Ram was his, the rusty Ram. I was interested in a car hauler, and on the car hauler was also that white Jeep that I've got, right? So she's like, just take all of this stuff and help me out, and I'll give you the Ram, you know. And I was like, the Ram had an engine fire, it didn't run, the four-wheel drive didn't work. It was ready for the crusher at that time, you know. So I had no history on anything, and she knew nothing at all. But yeah, so I got the Ram. I would have helped her anyway because I felt really bad that I sold her a car that she knows nothing about, and like a month or so later, like, you know, she's like stuck with this thing. You know what I mean? So I got the Ram. I put all new wiring on top end on the engine, fixed the four-wheel drive, did all this work on it, and it's what it is now. But you see what it's like. But I got it for free, and it has brand new Toyo Open Countries on it, which are like 4 times the value of that truck in scrap. So feel weird. I don't know.
If you're just now joining us, with us today is Half-Ass Garage here on Hangover Hangouts, my 4th annual Know Your Neighbors expose here on New Year's Day on YouTube. And just wanted to say hi to a couple people who've come into the chat since we started. Henry Escat, John Hooper, and there's another new name that I had not seen before, Gregory Rogers. So welcome everybody for dropping in. But so yeah, your comment about the tires worth more than truck kind of reminded me of the swap over that I've been doing on my parents' truck. They now have about a $500 pair or set of 4 tires on a truck that you probably couldn't sell for $500
Right.
before we started. But I know the Rusty Ram, you also did like an engine rebuild. I know you've been having some struggles that I did with the transmission and just getting it running right and not straining you all the time, but on the Fairmont. But
that's this truck.
Yeah,
with the trans issues.
Take us through what the 360 rebuild was like, or what's going on under the hood.
All right, so the Rusty Ram is the red hunk crap Dodge, right? And then this is just, excuse me, the Dodge.
Okay, I apologize. I confused the two.
No, I know you're busy. You can't watch all this crap, you know? So the Rusty Ram is the hunk of crap red truck that's like literally rusting apart. If you go up and hit it on the hood, you'll just hear a Niagara Falls of rust hit the floor, right? This one is good. This is out of Alabama. There's no rust on it. This truck, the 360 that's in it is out of a B350 like church bus like van, you know, those huge ones. And so it's got stock crank, stock rods, but they're balanced to within a half a gram. I've just got some like Keith Black hyper pistons in it, flat tops, Edelbrock RPM heads. I did do a roller conversion on this one. So I'm trying to remember what Howard's roller conversion. So roller lifters, roller cam, Comp Pro Magnum roller tip rockers on it. They're just like 1.5s. Nothing. It's a pretty mild street build. Air gap manifold, Holly Sniper. You know, just a bunch of little odds and ends. So nothing super extreme. You know, it's because I still want to kind of drive it around as a truck and have fun with it. I don't want it. It's like 10.8 to 1 or something. I think I don't know. That's the static compression. I don't know. I think we were shooting for like 8 or 9 or something dynamic compression. I don't remember what we got out of it. But yeah, it's all balanced, and you know, we did all of the stuff that we could do and just left the rods and crank stock. But the block was in okay shape. It was a factory. It was a Mopar reman, but it was pretty hammered out from Mopar. Like, it had some damage done to it before Mopar got a hold of it and remanufactured it, so the cylinder walls are pretty gnarled up on the top and above the ring lands. It is what it is. But now it runs good. Now that I fixed the tank, the biggest thing with this truck was taking the original non-electric fuel pump ABS fuel tank and converting it to an electric fuel pump, like an internal electric fuel pump tank, which I had to do for the Holly. That was a trip. That threw some obstacles in my way, but I got it done. Seems like it's running okay now, but like as soon as I got it done, we had 4 inches of snow the next day, and I haven't been able to even pull it out of the garage since. So
yeah, I know Jason in the chat can relate to fuel tank problems, fuel pickup problems, fuel pump problems for sure.
I can't see the chat, by the way, in case anybody says something. I can't. I'm on my phone, so I can't even see it.
Well, I'll try to monitor that and throw questions your way, Darren, if I see any that makes sense. But well, when you talked about you made the comment earlier where it's like, you know, these projects are just my projects. This is just what I have. So if you're not interested, like, sorry, like it just is what it is. So I think we can all relate to that. We've all been there. You know, whatever constraint we're going through, time, money, space, just not being able to pump out what you want to. So I guess I kind of always like to flip the script a little bit though and say, you know, if you could break those chains, what do you think your channel would want to be about if you could make about anything?
It would probably be close to the same, but with like more interesting projects. I'm really buried up in space here. So my mom she had pancreatic cancer. She was sick forever, right? And I had to quit my old life basically to come back here and try to take care of my parents. So, you know, a lot's changed. I'm constrained by different things that a lot of other people aren't, you know, so I can't run out and, you know, buy some junk car on the side of the road and go and work on it for a YouTube video as much as I'd like to. But also, one of the biggest things is you can't find vehicles here that aren't destroyed for a reasonable price. Like the rusty Ram, that second gen Dodge that's just falling apart. You see them here, they're like $3,200 with no drivetrain. It's nuts. But like in better shape than mine, but it's nuts, the prices of cars here. You know, I can't, like Mortsky, for instance, he gets all those cars. I'll never find those things here. It's just, we don't have farm trucks like that littering the countryside like some folks do. You know what I mean? But I would probably basically be the same channel. It'd just be more fun and interesting things like nitrous or LS stuff. I'm not just 100% Mopar guy. It's just what's always fallen in my lap.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, like with Mortsky stuff in the Dakotas and Minnesota area, like it's not necessarily that they're out of the Rust Belt per se, but when you have that much open farmland and the things aren't driving on the roads to pick up salt, you know, and they're just kind of out to pasture, like the rust rate's a lot slower when you're just, because it's, you know, it's pretty dry over the summers and everything. So, you know, it's really more the salt than anything when it comes to Rust Belt problems. So, yeah, that's always been
a lot more cars here than trucks in this area because it's Detroit. But also, one of the biggest killers was whenever they did their cash for clunkers thing. This is a pretty economically depressed area. People were driving really nice cars straight to the crusher. I mean, my buddy somehow managed to snag a couple of really nice ones. But, I mean, like, cars nicer than this truck were going right to the crusher. And that wiped out a huge majority because that was a lot of money for people around here, you know. So there just aren't many cars left that are reasonable.
Yeah, so John Hooper in the chat says cash for clunkers killed the hot rodders. I don't know that it killed the hot rodders. Seems like the hobby's still doing well.
They threw them in the crusher too. Hot rodders be damned.
But I think it would be interesting to know the stats. Somebody knows the stats somewhere. Like how many cars was that? And I mean, let's be honest too. There's for as many 1989 turbo coupes that aren't out on the market because cash for clunkers, there were probably like 5 Nissan Elantras and 2 1984 Dodge Caravans to go with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like not every car that was crushed was like, oh man, I really want to get my hands on a Topaz. Man, I had one of those,
K-car.
and so like, I don't
Then
know.
dive for that K-car convertible, pick up all the chicks in it.
Yeah,
I
was really wanting to do a Geo Metro truck conversion. I wanted to cut off the back, and that was always been a dream of mine.
Oh, for everybody's dream. I had a Metro convertible when they came out. I needed a car, and that was like what was in my price range. God, I hated that thing. I felt like such a douchebag in it. It's like whatever. But, it was like, well, you can have this coupe over here. It's like $8, or for $8.50 you can have the convertible. I'm like, well, you know what I mean? They were so cheap, but it never ran. It wouldn't start in the cold and whatever. I ended up selling
easier to haul lumber in the convertible than the hatch. So
I know, right? Well, so to put the the cash for clunkers thing in perspective, the guy that I don't remember who if it was his friend or him, I don't remember at the time because it was a while ago. It was an OBS Ford Power Stroke or whatever their diesel thing is. I guess it was in basically perfect condition. That was my friend or his friend, whatever, intercepted it pulling in to this thing, and I guess it was just perfect. But the lady driving it was like her ex's, or it was somebody's, whatever, and they don't use it. It was like, it's been sitting in the shed, but this thing was just primo. And she's just like, well, they're giving me whatever, 3,500, I don't remember how much, but X amount, and she didn't want it. So she's driving a perfect diesel OBS Ford into there, and they nabbed it up, thankfully. But for that one story, there's 10,000 other ones that no one caught.
Sure. Yeah,
I did hear stories about how there were some of the disreputable crushing companies around here did pick up some, that they pulled them off and stored them. Said that marked them as destroyed, or they poured the liquid in the engine or whatever they did and seized them up, but they didn't. I don't know.
Huh. Well, either way, I think it'd be an interesting documentary or to know what the numbers were. It's stories like that, all these years later, because it no matter which way you skin it, it did affect us in the hobby, and maybe not the hot rodders in general, because again, I just don't know how many.
Well, hot rod you got to kind of put a date on it. The date moves for each person individually, Like some guys think it's
like for sure, like people who love to be DIY people and just fix your car. It for sure affected like the hobby, the industry, like the self wrencher. But I don't know that like I'm really hamstrung for wanting to build what I want to build because of cash for clunkers is what I'm saying.
Right. Oh, it's just around here. Like I said, every place is different. Down south, there's still lots of cars. Up here, there's just everybody started watching, I don't know, those car shows. It's like, that rusted out, minivan, I don't know, whatever car it is, I'll give you 35,000 for it. What? Let's meet at, 30. Okay, so now all the cars that are whatever are worth 30 grand. It's some, you know what I mean? Like those car shows seem to really affect, like distort the perception of the value of a lot of things until nothing was attainable anymore, like muscle cars and stuff.
Well, or even like, I was going to spin off, actually keep going.
No, go on.
Well, yeah, it was going to be a little off topic. When I went to Steve Darnell's tour of his facility in Vegas, he kind of admitted to, like life behind the scenes. And like the majority of the cars built were like already funded like for the show, like in the sense that like there's a couple in his showroom that the people who bought and paid for him let him keep it in the showroom because
Is he
they're such
welder up?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they're such expensive cars, they're like, well, it belongs in a showroom and I don't have anywhere to place it, kind of a thing. So it's like, what I'm getting at is like probably 8 out of 10 builds were like he knew he was still going to have his hands on when he was done. But
Wow.
if you watch the series, like 10 out of 10 look like there's 10 different owners to him, right? But it's like, no, like most of them are like he's either building for himself or so they're like propping up like these owner clients. And to
Yeah,
your
the
point, like they're exaggerating,
Hollywood.
like they show up and it's like, and he's all like, "No, man, I can't do this for less than 100 grand. Like, it's gonna be a shitty thing if you don't give me 100 grand." Like, oh man, I was
They're
thinking
gonna
more
lose
like
the shop.
60. Like the buyer's
Like
like, I only have 60 grand. Well, let me figure it out. I can come around to it, and they handshake on like $92,000 or something,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, but anyway, I get it though too because we'll relate it back to what we do, like from a YouTube standpoint, from YouTube growth standpoint, like when you take 3 years to barely restore a Fairmont like I did, like your growth is going to be slow. Your growth, I feel like, is contingent upon how fast you can put up content and things like that. And when he talked about the show, like the reason he had to have the staff he did was because like Discovery Channel wants him like basically building a car a week. So they like, because they're not going to send videographers out to Vegas to live there for like 6 months. They're going to send them out there to live there for 12 weeks or whatever, right? So to shoot 12 episodes, they'll go edit everything, come back, and then people are excited because once a week I get to go see a brand new build or whatever. So it all makes sense. Like I know a lot of people like want to be hard on Hollywood production side in what it is, but it's entertainment, right? Like, I mean, physically I can't produce cars at
Yeah.
that rate, but like I get it as a consumer. Like I would much rather watch, something new every week like that. So
Right.
it's
A
really
lot
a
of people
struggle.
don't get that though. There's for all of the people that understand the mechanics of how that works, there's more people that don't understand any of that. They just think building a car is easy. Like the people that come to me and like, oh yeah, hey, my daughter's got a Ford Explorer and the head gasket's leaking. Can you do that this afternoon for me? I'm like, what? No, like what do you want? Some beer? I'm like, no, I don't want beer, and I can't do your head gasket in a day. Like I'm busy. So,
Yeah.
but that's a lot of that's what I've gathered. Not it's kind of empirical, whatever. It's from the things I've heard non-car people say from watching these car shows. They just have a totally unrealistic view of the car world or repairs or building anything custom, bikes, you name it, whatever it is. I don't
And it
know.
for sure gives me a different appreciation for like I don't fix absolutely everything that comes my way. I do send some things to the dealership. Like for instance, my wife's Mustang. I think the pinion was starting to go out on it. It's like, oh, I don't want to have any business to do with trying to replace a pinion on an independent rear suspension vehicle that I don't have a lift for. Like, yeah, nope. And that was a pretty hefty bill. But it's like it gives me a new appreciation for dealer mechanics or shops you take it to, like their billable rates and everything, because just because they're professionals doesn't mean they don't come across the same rusty bolt we would and all that stuff. And they have these manuals that say, hey, this job's supposed to take 12 hours or whatever, and it might end up taking 14, but they don't charge you for 14 because on paper, like they're banking off of, okay, well, if I can overcharge for these little things that 9 times out of 10 we're going to get done, we're going to far exceed that. Like our profit margin will be there to help cover us for, these bigger jobs when something goes wrong. Like, yeah, things can get pretty expensive pretty quick, but at the same time, like I feel like there are certain tasks that I get out of shops like, huh, I would not have suspected. Like that's really, in my opinion, not all that unreasonable. And I think it's always easy for people, like to your point, that if you don't understand cars and what it takes to do some of these things, it's really easy for people to think they know better. and think that a head gasket can be done in an afternoon for a 6-pack.
Yep. Yeah, the YouTube certified. I saw a guy on YouTube who did it, and my cousin's brother's uncle's friend knew a cat that down the road had whatever. And they're like, yeah, he used to build 8,000 horsepower engines out of Folgers cans. Whatever.
Yeah,
buddy.
with a 3/4 race cam, if Dan Boy Customs is still there.
The 5/16 race cam.
Yeah. That's where the industry is really missing, is they really should have been running the 5/16 race cam instead of, or 13/16. I mean,
13/16 stage 3.5.
The 3/4 was good, of course, but man, the 13/16.
I'm trying to remember what it was. Maybe I'm wrong about this. I don't know, but I could have sworn that I saw a video. It wasn't like it was like a kind of like one of those, I don't know, like a historical kind of, they're like a documentary about something. And I thought it was Fast and Furious, but maybe I'm wrong, or it's a different movie. But somehow that 3/4, I don't know, the stage thing was like totally invented by company or by Hollywood, and then like adopted by companies. But that doesn't mean anything. Stage 1 could be stage 3 in another company. Like there's no, standardization for stage 2. But I thought it was interesting.
Rock the industry and start using theater terms like stage left and stage right.
Yeah, I got a stage left, 3/5 48 race cam in that thing. It's all metric.
So, yeah, the reason why it works better than most is like it opens all the valves up on the left side of the engine bigger, and so you get this extra torque because there's an imbalance. Yeah,
I put some extra valves in my muffler for added torque
with air shocks.
Oh, dude, air shocks.
Air shocks.
Air shocks.
Dude, you're not even trying if you aren't running air shocks.
You gotta have like the big old traction bars under that hang way too far down, flapper bars with some obnoxious saying on it, like born to eat insert thing here, it just like the big truck balls hanging off. Just be obnoxious. Air shocks, Kragers.
Underbody lights too, like just really mix some
I
genre.
Had those one time,
right?
And in the 90s, man, those underglow lights were the heat.
Yeah, they were. I was too cheap, always wanted. I was gonna do them on the interior because my truck, of course, with the blue interior, I was gonna have blue lights, under the dash. But being too cheap of all the things that was like that I could live without, was like, yeah, how about we spend it on a good radio system and this and that, but yeah.
I'm gonna tell you now, man, the best interior lighting I have yet to see, I think, is like the early 2000s Volkswagen cobalt blue instrument cluster. Have you ever seen those? My dad's Jetta has it, and I had a 03 Golf. Dude, it's this weird deep blue. Like everything on the instrument cluster is this deep blue. It lights up deep blue, like this ice or not ice blue, but like a cobalt blue. They're cool. Look them up. It's you never think, because they're always like amber or white or gold, some. But these are like a really deep, weird blue, like nuclear reactor meltdown Hollywood blue. They're cool.
Well, especially, I mean, most when you say colors of blue in a light form, like I do think more, kind of that neon sensation. So the way you describe it sounds like it's definitely unique and something different.
It hides away. You know how like the worst LED color that they put them on all of the like power unit or the like USB adapters. Those friggin' like spotlight bright blue LEDs. They're not like that. This is a super subtle, really deep, weird. I'll take a picture and post it and send it to you. But tonight, it's a nice color. Like I've never seen that color in any other car since. I don't know, but I like it.
Maybe that's another documentary option. Where did the Volkswagen gauge cluster blue go? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, gauge cluster gate. Here we go. We're gonna expose it. Government conspiracy, lizard people, and
EPA. Come on. changing your rules.
Right. I have, I think, one of the am I a subject of Dieselgate because mine's a 2003? When did that start?
No, because the only reason I know this, so I don't know if you remember or ever saw my channel. I had a diesel Jeep Liberty for a while, and they made those in 2005 and 2006. And the guy who sold it to me, who was like a diesel tech at like a community college, he said like Dodge sold every one of them that they made. Like they sold really well, and they would have sold more, but 2007 was the year that all the rules change happened, and they looked at it because, of course, Chrysler's always in good financial shape. They looked at it as, so do we spend the time to do R&D on the freaking Liberty line and dump a ton of money in R&D to figure out how we can keep putting diesels in the freaking Liberty, or do we just say, hey, it was a nice run, move on, and keep selling what's already selling well? So you kind of know how that ended up.
I've always had a lot of Jeeps and the Wranglers and Toyota FJ40s and stuff. And my thing was always, you know what, I'll buy another Wrangler when they put a legit diesel in it. But they never did around here. But then have you heard of this like side-by-side manufacturer, some type of weirdo thing that's essentially the same exact stampings as the Jeeps, but there's little diesels in them?
Yeah, God.
They sell them up here.
It's not Mahindra, but it's like one of the, it's like no, I know what you're talking about.
My buddy's going to try to buy one, or he's talking about buying one. We actually just talked about it a couple days ago, but the newer model that's brand new or whatever, you can't do this in as much, but the previous one a few years ago, you could just go buy a whole Jeep front end, like a CJ front end or whatever, just put it right on. Like all of it fit right up apparently. And you'd have a little diesel, you can convert it to like on-road stuff, and then here you go. You got like a Jeep diesel. I was like, and they're like 13 grand or 15 or something. I was like,
yeah, that's really not too bad. In Turlo's Garage, he's another Liberty YouTuber. I'll tell you, like, if you really are, if you're down in the dumps about views on YouTube, throwing Jeep in your title seems to fix a lot of things.
Except for the Cherokee.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like that.
Exactly.
XJ.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's still my number. That is my cash cow on this channel. I think it's at 85,000 views out of my, I think I'm I don't know how much over 500,000 views I am, but if you think about it, that's almost 20% of the views of my entire channel came from that one stinking video. So I would say it's probably more like 16%. Darren, we'll get back to you.
Out pulling people out in the snow in his Liberty. He's just out there balling in the snow.
I was thinking about doing that with the Tacoma today, just driving around town a little bit, seeing if anybody slid off with my D-ring and tow ropes, and seeing. Do you ever
watch Fab Rats? He's got a pretty sweet taco.
Fab Rats.
You ever heard of Matt's Off-Road Recovery? You ever watched that?
Yeah. Once or twice.
Matt's Off-Road Recovery they're like friends, and then if you saw this white Tacoma with like a custom flatbed and rock crawling, that's that Fab Rats guy. So, but he's always working on something cool. He's a cool channel. He was one that started off super small and just exploded huge, like pudding, just blew up.
That's a big personal struggle for me. I'd love to build like a trail rig with like some gnarly suspension and custom flatbed and all these things. But I also love all the hot rodding stuff. And if you just look at it from a practicality standpoint, it's like, well, when it's summertime, would you rather go go pick up some drinks at Sonic and a cool rat rod, or the 4x4, the thing on 38s that's obnoxiously loud, and it's like, yeah, all right, there's probably, so someday maybe I'll have both. I don't know, but Darren, I want to go back to your channel, and one of the things that I constantly appreciate of your channel is just your sense of humor. of course, and it's showing through here today. But like I always go back to the video of when you had to take down, I think it was like the yard pull, and you were trying to karate kick it down. And I was like, kudos to you. But talk a little bit about how, because personally for me, what I really struggle with in my videos is just letting personality come through. It's easier for me to do it on a video like this. But so how do you just let loose and not let that bother you?
If you watch any of my super early videos, they were like a lot of like, just people, normal people that don't have the camera charisma or whatever. It wasn't as cool, but I just finally just stopped caring. Like I didn't know anything about YouTube really when I started doing stuff for YouTube, and I still really don't. But like I didn't have like this broad history of this channel and that channel and this personality and that one, and how am I going to work all this together? I didn't do any of that. So I just was like, I'm going to work on this and today and da da da. And then I'm probably more reserved on my channel than I am in life. Like the whole Bobby Succotash thing is, I hate to say it, but that's really closer to who I really am than just, what you see, because I cut out a lot because I'm like, I don't want to offend certain people, and in a lot of things that I say in real life, if you're not there or some part of the video doesn't work out and that part gets cut for some reason, like the context is missing and it is totally perceived differently. So I try to keep it, I don't know. It's a weird, I don't know, like I'm brain damaged or something. I don't know. I can't figure it out.
You talked a little bit about, you don't want to offend anybody. And I think in this world, we can certainly get to that point where there's too much of that. Like everybody's soft or whatever you want to say. However, the flip side of that is like, I think what you're somewhat saying there was like, but if you let that be common, normal practice, then someday you say something a little too far, and you're like, so if it's me, like, why would I don't mind saying certain things, but if that's an everyday thing, and then it's just like anything, if you're trying to get a little bit better at something, or you just push the envelope one day and then you say something, and then all of a sudden there's a giant shitstorm, for lack of a better term. And all of this, the way I look at it is like it's a brand I got to protect. And if I've built something it's going on, it'll be 8 years now in March. And if it's like all the 8 years worth of work just by saying something stupid one day, could bring it to a crashing halt. It's like, dude, why didn't you just lock it up a little more, along the way?
Well, I know what you're saying. And I think that's happened to a couple of people, but they were saying some pretty on the edge stuff. But I look at it like if I met a stranger, right, on the street and I started talking to him, which I'm showing this to a bunch of strangers for the most part. I know some of you, but, if I met a stranger on the street, am I going to say this stuff to him? How am I going to act? So I try to act in the videos kind of like how I would sort of act in real life if I met somebody at a restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to roll up to them with some frickin' super crude joke. You know what I mean? But if you're hanging with your buddies around a bonfire with some beers, then that's different. You can cut loose a little bit. So that's kind of just how I approach it, is if I was working at a shop with a bunch of people that I didn't really know, how would I act? That's pretty much kind of how I approach the channel. And then once you get to know them, like Puddin', for instance, like he says a lot, he cusses and stuff in his videos and everything, but that's just, he's got a personality that just allows that to be okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you watch his channel or not. There's just no way to duplicate that guy's personality. And it's just, that's just what it is. And that's what makes it great.
I mean, there's something to be said there for sure. Like that natural talent of being able to come up with one-liners, like Derek from My Script Garage. It's not like, there are things we asked him when he was on our show, where does that come from? And he's like, well, just spent all that time around, I think it was like his grandpa and his grandpa's coffee drinking buddies. And it's just like, you just absorb that stuff. And so you either have it or you don't, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's like much like Puddin', like you're indicating, like you don't get that personality overnight,
Yeah.
That's however old he is. It's 33 years of personality, or whatever.
Yeah, pretty young guy.
Yeah,
but yeah,
no
you either have it. I think he's 30.
Really?
But yeah, you either have it or you don't. And there's a lot of times when after I'm editing the video or whatever, I'm like, oh man, I should have said that. That would have been way more fun, or something. But so here's my thing. I guess the number one thing that I think about when I'm editing the videos or filming them or whatever, what you guys see when you watch the video is me not knowing anything that I'm doing about a particular project that I'm working on. Like, I'm going in blind. I don't know what's wrong with this thing. I don't really know how to fix it. I've never worked on them before. It's not like I'm a woodworker and I've made 1,000 cabinets and I'm going to show you how I make cabinets. No, like the rusty ram, like I don't know what's wrong with it, or working on this. I don't know how to fix it. I just fight through the problems and figure things out as I go. So on the headlight video that I posted yesterday or whatever, I had never done that before on one of those trucks in my life. Like, I don't know how to take the bumper off of it, So where a lot of my struggles come in is like, I don't know how to, I shoot a lot of video and I throw away a lot, and it gets kind of chopped up in the video and it looks kind of weird, sort of, to me anyway, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just figuring it out. So you're going along for a ride while I don't know what I'm doing, working on something I've never worked on before, and I don't have like any experience doing it.
So my advice there for like the weird chops, because we've all done them, is that's where the B-roll comes in, like just shooting like up close shots of something that you're working on. So it's like, because sometimes the way I look at it, I used to do podcasting, and I was a lot better audio editor for podcasting than I'm an audio editor for YouTube stuff. But it's like when you're listening, because every now and then we'll get hung up on something that we're saying, and we say like one word like 3 times in a row or something, because we're trying to think of what we're really trying to say. And that's not fun and entertaining, but you can clip out about like 3 seconds and make the same point, right? But you'll have that weird chop video wise because my face was over here when I said this, and then all of a sudden I'm over here, That's where the B-roll comes in, because then you can just overlay, an up close shot of the carburetor that you were trying to explain what was wrong with the carburetor, through that. That's how you hide that stuff. That would be my advice anyway.
I use smooth cut. It just blends it. It doesn't work. I don't know. You have to. All right. So what you're saying makes perfect sense, and that would be that's a great tip. I appreciate it. Thank you for the tip. I usually don't have enough time to edit my videos that I really sit on my, the composition of this. Let me see, perhaps Bach in this one here. Who knows? No, I'm just like, dude, I got an hour. This shit's got to be out. Like whatever.
Then that's how I used to be. It used to be like Sundays are the days that I, have unaltered free time to go out and just to work on things in the garage. But I used to go out, film, start cleaning up by a certain time. That's a like hour event, just to put the garage back into shape. Then come in Sunday night and then edit everything, and it'd be out Sunday night. Like, and then it got to a point where it's just not like I was trying to be efficient and be like, I didn't want that to bleed over into multiple days. If I'm going to take time away from family life, like don't string it out. But it just became disastrous. And it was like an 8-hour workday really every Sunday. It was like 1 to 9. I was just, that's all I did. And I don't know, it took the fun out of it, and it started making it kind of like you said, where it's got to be out by 8:30, and it just took the enjoyment out of it. So I don't know. When you make a point to like do these things, like it becomes a little more like habit. It's like the B-roll stuff's it's not too hard to interject in there. But anyway,
I'll grab some. I usually forget.
Yeah, That's really what it's more about anyway. It's just the reminder, like when you're in the middle is like, hey, I'm not going to necessarily turn the camera on for 12 straight minutes while I'm trying to pull this fuel line out. Like, why don't I just take one quick, 14 seconds, and we'll clip out the best 3 seconds out of here for later on when I need it.
If I had another person to hang out, things would be a lot better, But going back to what I was saying, like, I'm figuring everything out as I go. So if I'm stuck on something like, like those quick release fuel clips or whatever, that never quick release, those things. If I'm stuck on something, I'm trying to figure out how to get it apart or whatever, like, I'm not thinking about the camera. So I forget all about it. And I'm doing it. I'm like, oh, dude, I forgot. Or I'll hit record and I'll accidentally like swipe close or something whenever I'm walking away, and it'll shut the camera off. So I'll miss stuff. You know what I mean? Like, little weird things will happen and I won't get the shot. Like with the headlight thing, there were a bunch of times when my phone, it just shut off. It just stopped recording for no reason at all. And I missed a bunch of footage. Not that it was that important. It's freaking headlights, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
if I was a bigger channel, I would be pretty upset. You know what I mean? Like if I was making big money at it, like Vice Script Garage or whoever, that would be a pretty big problem.
I've been pretty lucky over the course of this almost 8-year journey that I haven't lost too much footage or had like the footage where audio went bad. I mean, I've certainly had it, but I feel like I've been pretty lucky in that regard. But the plan is to take the show up to the top of the hour, and then we'll let you get back to your 2022, Darren. So we're sitting at about 52 minutes now, but I guess, where I wanted to kind of close this is just talking the kind of where we're at is what kinds of struggles do you feel like you have with YouTube right now? I know you're still under 1,000 subscribers, and that's that big first milestone for everybody.
Nice Sisyphean task.
Yes. Yeah. So what I was going to ask is like, if I always like to try to help out. I've been doing it for not that 3,000 subscribers in almost 8 years is any sort of ridiculous pace, but I've certainly learned some things over the course of those years. What types of things do you feel like you're struggling with, and what could maybe us in the community help you with?
Okay, well, I don't have enough time to tell you about all the stuff I'm struggling with, but I'm happy. I had the wrong idea. Like I had an illusion, when I started the channel, because I didn't know anything about it. Now I'm just happy. I'm meeting cool people, working on my crap. I would like to get some cooler vehicles, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Like I said, without going into too much detail, like I have a lot of pressure on me here. Like I've got a lot of responsibilities that no one sees on camera. I keep that life separate, and I don't have tons of free time and stuff. I just can't. So, I'm just happy meeting cool people and hanging out in the community and doing what I'm doing. Basically, if you like what I'm doing now and whatever, you're gonna like it, in 2022. If it's not your thing, that's cool, and I understand. And I mean, it's kind of more of the same. Like I'd like to put a lift kit on the Jeep, on the Cherokee, and fix that up a little bit more, make it where it's not destroying itself every time it hits a pebble in the road. So maybe some Cherokee stuff. I'd like to kind of make that more kind of a trail thing and take it up north this summer, if we don't all die from whatever horrible whatever is coming around the corner.
Murder hornets are coming back.
Right. Murder locusts next. It's going to be the biblical plague of murder locusts. So there's that. The Rusty Ram, I probably, that thing won't be around a whole lot longer. But the 360 and stuff in it, I want to keep in those Trust Dana 44s. I might try to work with someone about getting another second gen out of the South, and maybe try to do some swapping around, make a decent truck. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I don't know.
I feel like
I'm a computer tech, so it's like no one wants to see me do my day job.
I feel like one of the popular YouTube card guy thing to do is, make a cart car or something that is just a skeleton of. So maybe the Rusty Ram's a good candidate for something like that. It's like, if it's rusting apart anyway, maybe just keep removing body panels till it keeps getting more and more fun, and then
it
pull the motor.
Removes those body panels.
It's automotive leprosy.
It totally is. The leper ram. Oh my God! Why didn't I think of that? Jesus,
hey, there you go.
Freaking great. Yeah, but then I'm gonna have the one person on YouTube's like, my uncle has leprosy and I'm offended. I report your channel.
Full circle. Then we go back to what we just talked about.
Right.
Yeah. See, there you go. Now I probably got to go back in my monetization and click that I probably said something a little too far. I don't know. Better audit that. Yeah. It strictly says do not mention.
Yeah. You can't. No. Don't film children. Don't say leprosy. Whatever. Yeah, the leprous ram.
And we just offended Andy Turlow. He said in the comments. So
poor guy. I still haven't filmed my sweet NES thing. Did you hear about what he did for me?
No.
Do you know stuff with Cletus? You know Steve Cletus.
Yeah.
So remember he was giving away he was auctioning or raffling off the little Nintendo, like the custom NES that was customized by Straight Line. So Turlo won that. He knew I wanted it, so he gave it to me. Frickin' man.
Dude, he's super nice. Thanks,
Turlo.
When I talked about not losing a lot of audio over the years, like one of the ones that I did was my DJI Osmo Action Cam needs a little adapter for an external mic, and I bought one of these. And like the first 3 times I used it, I lost audio because it was like jiggle and like not make a good connection. So then I started shooting videos without it, and the audio really sucked. And then he decided to just buy me a new adapter out of the blue. So super nice guy, Andy is.
Yeah, he's legit.
Yeah, so if anybody, in 2022, you feel like you want to be gracious towards anybody, send your gratitude towards Andy.
Yeah, he's a good dude, for real. Like, he didn't have to give me that thing. He could have sold it.
Yeah.
Those NESs are, getting up in value now. It's modified ones or not, it is what it is. That was the first it wasn't the first console I ever had. I had the original. You want to know how old I am? I had Pong, the original frickin' Pong, right? So, but as far as the console that I actually saved on bought, it was an NES. So, and I didn't.
I'm a Super Nintendo generation. My brothers and I, saved up our money doing my older brother will tell you that removing dead frogs out of the fire escape window in our new house because they just got baked and they got trapped. Somehow they landed down in the pit. It just got baked. So removing dead frogs, I think earned him $20 towards the $120 total that we were all trying to hit or whatever it was at the time. So. Yeah,
that's right. That's crap work. You gotta love your Super Nintendos to be digging up frog corpses.
This Super Nintendo is brought to you by Frog Corpse.
Yeah, yeah. I had Lemmings. I always played Lemmings. I had the chicken pox, and then I got a Super Nintendo, and I played Mario Kart and Lemmings the whole time I had the chicken pox back when that came out.
I would say Mario Kart, and then Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball is another big one for us. But
so here's a funny story about Mario Kart that just happened last week. So we have a farm supply store up here, and we live in a rural thing. So I'm in this farm supply store, and I'm always nice to everybody. One of my mottos is, it never hurts to be nice to people, right? You shouldn't be mean. So I'm just talking to this lady at the cashier. She's a little older. And she's like, I'm like, what do you got planned for tonight? Just hanging out? She's like, I'm going to go home and play some Super Nintendo Mario Kart or whatever with my kids. I'm like, oh, yeah? I was like, well, who do you play? She's like, I'm always Princess Peach. I'm like, bad move. Try Toad and you'll beat your kids, because she was saying she always lost to her kids. So then yesterday, I was up there and I was cruising by and I'm like, hey, did you ever play Toad? And she's like, I did, and I beat all my kids. It's great. So took my advice and played Toad. Whipped
Toad
her
and
little kids, little brats.
Koopa was probably the next one, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to
The
remember
little
which one
turtle.
Koopa was. Oh, yeah. Toad
The,
was always my go-to. I don't know. I couldn't get
I think I remember that was we would always do time trials on that first stage, and Toad was always the record holder. You were always trying to outbeat the last Toad on that one. But Darren, we're right at an hour. Gotta enjoyed the chat, and I really appreciate you joining us here on New Year's Day. Good luck to you in your 2022 journey. Everybody in the chat who's been here, definitely go check out Half Fast Garage. I guess I'll put my microphone on mute, let you close it out, and then any last words you got, say goodbye to the group.
I don't. Thank you for watching my channel. If you watch it, if you haven't and you're going to go there, I hope you like it. Don't get your expectations too high, but thanks for hanging out. I don't have anything to say. I mean,